All right, guys. Well, let's get started. It's 10:31. Welcome to today's open forum. We will be having a presentation by Ms. Teresa Hurley, one of our fantastic realtors, one of our top realtors, and she will be giving a presentation. I'll let her describe it, but it's on contesting some appraisals. She's been doing very well with that, and she would like to talk to you about that and how to make sure that you don't have to contest appraisals by doing what you need to do up front. So we'll talk about that. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping stuff. Next week, we will have Jason Pugh in from AmeriFirst. He's going to talk about a video series that he's doing for you guys. They're going to do it on Tuesday mornings as you guys voted. And that's just going to be an extra thing you guys can do. It's going to be motivational, a lot of Tom Ferry stuff, just some kind of motivational stuff and some sales techniques and some very real estate centric sales techniques. So you guys will really appreciate that. And of course it's free, and they'll be putting that on, but he'll be here next week to tell you guys all about that. So that's going to start the following Tuesday morning. And I'm going to, if you guys have any other questions, you guys know, I'm going to put together a series, guys, where I'm going to do paperless pipeline stuff. I'm going to do one with none of you guys present. I'm going to do a series of forms that I'm just going to go through and fill out, so you guys, that way we don't have a bunch of questions during it and we can just bust right through it. Just some little 4-minute videos, 5-minute videos on all kinds of different buyer brokerage agreement, listing agreements, as is, everything, just kind of show you guys just some very basics, but most importantly, paperless pipeline, all the little tips and techniques and tricks you can use on there to make everything more efficient and answer some of the questions that you guys might have. But I'm going to turn it over now to Ms. Teresa Hurley. Thank you for coming, Teresa, and we look forward to what you have to say.
Thank you for letting me do this. I've found that over my career, I love to teach. So, you know, when I find something that I find is really helpful for myself, I always want to give it to somebody else, because, you know, if you pour out, then it all comes back to you. But anyway, so I've recently, in the last 6 months, I've had 2 situations where houses did not appraise, and it wasn't because the appraisal value shouldn't have been there. It's because the appraisers did not do a good job. So, anyway, so that's what I'm going to talk about today. And I'll talk about, first I want to talk about, can I share my screen? Can you let me share my screen, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going to make you the host, and then please make sure to make me the host back when you're finished.
Okay, perfect.
Here you go.
All right. Oh.
Now you should be able to.
Third time's the charm. Okay. All right, so sorry, I had this up earlier, and then my son called, and yeah. Okay, so I did up a handout, and I'm not sure how to share this, but I will share it with Ryan, and then he can actually send this to you guys later. When you get a contract, like if you list a house and you get a contract, it's your responsibility to make sure that the value that contract is either 1, you have the value in comps, or 2, you get the appraisal waived. You know, or your clients understand that they may not get the price that they want for the appraisal. Do you understand what I'm saying? So anyways, but when an appraiser is going to come out, a lot of times agents will just be like, oh yeah, the appraisers don't want us to come and meet them. And I find that that's not true. The appraisers have no problem with you meeting them, bringing them information. It makes their job easier. So these are all the things that I attach to or put together for my appraisal package. You know, the first thing is comparables. You know, if you don't have comparables for the house that you listed at a price that's too high, shame on you. Um, but anyways, make sure you have enough comparables in there that they can see the same value that you have put on it. You want to have the subject property, the full broker listing. And I usually take sticky notes and I just write on it. I'll write comparables and I put them together with a paper clip, and then I'll write, you know, subject property and put that together with a paper clip so that way it's all separated out. I put the tax record with it. I put the contract and any money addendums. Now, if you're doing like if in one of ours, all the furniture came with the property. Well, we did not put that anywhere in the contract. We did a separate addendum. You don't ever want to put furniture with the property because the appraiser will have to appraise the value of the furniture as well. And that becomes super sticky really quickly. So if you're doing furniture, just make sure that that's on a separate addendum, and that when the appraiser's looking at the listing, nowhere on there does it say that the furniture actually comes with the property. Recent updates, and include at the bottom of the page any lot features. So let's say the lot backs to conservation, you want to put that at the bottom of the page. Or if it backs to a water feature, you want to put what that water feature is at the bottom of the page. If it was an oversized lot or a corner lot, you know, because these are things that they may not realize when they're sitting there looking at everything, unless you have it on there. And then, of course, your recent updates. Your recent updates are going to include, they can include what the builder upgrades were when the house was originally built. And then also include, you know, if you put in new windows or carpet or countertops or bathrooms, whatever, those updates should be included in that. When they get there, I go through and I tell them everything that's in the packet, but I put that recent updates as the very first page because I want them to be aware of what has going on with the property. So anyways, and then I tell them, I go through the packet and I just say, hey, by the way, here's the recent updates. And I ask them, do you have any questions about anything that you've seen so far? Then of course, attach your business card. You know, and here is all the little tips. While they're there, walk with them, especially inside, and just point things out. You know, ingratiate yourself to them. I will always compliment them on something. If it's, you know, if it's a woman, I will compliment her on her shoes or her handbag, you know, whatever I see that I go, oh, that's really cool. I like that. Where'd you get those shoes at? You know, they're really cool shoes. So, you know, just ingratiate yourself to them so that you're a friend. And then the last questions I ask before they leave is, when do you expect to have the appraisal back? And do you think you're going to have a problem finding the value? Because if they think they're going to have a problem finding the value, most appraisers have already looked at what they're looking at before they've even come out. So if they think they have a problem finding the value, you have to help them find the value. And then if they tell me, yeah, I think I might have a problem finding the value, I say, would you please call me before you actually send it back to the appraisal house? And a lot of times they will. You know, if they can't find the value, or if they have a question, they will call you. And I let them know I'm available. My card's right here. If you need anything from me, give me a call. Okay, so that's that portion of it. Does anybody have any questions about that? I don't see anything. Ryan, do you see anything? No. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk about two different properties today that that I actually where is my matrix? There it is. Okay. So the first one I'm going to talk about is 566 Barcelona. Now, 566 Barcelona Drive is a courtyard home. And if you don't know what a courtyard home is, that is actually a house that has a separate in-law suite that you get to through the courtyard. When we put the offer in on this property, we put an FHA offer on it and had no idea that FHA does not count courtyards or those extra suites as part of the property when they do their appraisal. So, I mean, I just, when I finally figured out what was going on, I was completely floored because I was like, how can you not count part of the house? I mean, this is Florida. Courtyard homes are typical in Florida, and especially in this community. 2/3 of the homes that they built in that community, I think, are courtyard homes. But FHA and VA do not count them. If you have to walk outside the front door and go across the courtyard or outside to get to another part of the house, it's not part of the house. It's not considered part of the house. So the FHA appraisal, now this one was the agent, I asked her if she was going to meet the appraiser, and she said no. She said, I just leave him some information on the counter, which was not much. It was literally the listing. I don't know why she would just leave the listing, but you know, that's something they can get on their own. But she left that, or the listing page, this, what you see here. Anyway, she left that for him on the counter, and that was it. And I should have said, not him, her. It was a woman that did this appraisal. But anyway, so the first appraisal, I get it back, and the house was listed. You can see for $314,998, and I get it back, and it's only for $300,000. And I'm like, oh great. So so I went to the agent, and I was like, and only appraised for $300,000. And at this point, I had not really looked at the appraisal, which, you know, I probably should have, but I was just thinking, oh, well, it didn't appraise, you know, we'll ask them to lower the price. Well, they refused to lower the price. And so anyways, long story short, I started looking at the appraisal, and then I realized that they had not included this 400 square foot portion of the home that was the in-law suite, which was a bedroom and a bathroom. They called it a rec room with a bathroom, but they gave no value for it. And then when I started looking at it even closer, I realized that they had taken, there's 2 different courtyard homes that are in that area. And one of them is smaller, and so that extra in-law suite is 288 square foot as opposed to the 400 square foot. She had taken several of those because the base square footage without that 400 square feet is what the base square footage is for the whole other unit. So she assumed wrongly that that unit, that's what had been done with these units. So that's how she came up with that $300,000 appraisal price, which was pretty crazy. So, but to fight an FHA appraisal is unheard of. I mean, when the next appraiser came out, he was like, this is FHA. I mean, like, he was really pretty shocked. So, and I ended up having to go all the way up to the VP of the company to get them to change it. And I mean, it took literally a phone conversation with her and just going through the appraisal and pointing out all of the errors that this woman had done in this appraisal, which you have to have a really good lender behind you, because if your lender doesn't believe in what you're doing, it's never going to get back to the appraisal house. You know, I mean, you've got to go through the lender to get to the appraisal house. And and we use Home First Lending, and they're pretty amazing. Patrick and Zach will always fight for me because they know I know what I'm doing. So anyways, we got a new appraisal, and in the midst of it, I realized that because I was fighting for them to utilize that unit as part of the square footage. But in the midst of it, I realized I'm never going to change that because FHA rules do not allow it. So then I had to change my thinking and go, okay, well, I got to argue the facts that that portion of that unit is not there. So what I did was when I put together to meet the appraisal, the appraiser, which I went out and met the appraiser because the list agent would still not do her job. So I went out and I met the appraiser, and I brought 3 different types of comps. I brought ones with courtyard homes, exactly like ours was. Then I brought 2 bedrooms with similar square footage because they were discounting that 3rd bedroom. And I brought 3 bedrooms with similar square footage. And so then when I talked to him and I had the conversation with him and I said, okay, so what are you going to utilize to actually compare this with? And, when he told me, I was like, okay, well, this is the pile of comps you're going to want to use. So, and I think that's why we got it. And we ended up, it went from 300,000 to 322,000, which gave us our 315,000, which is what our offer was. And that was plenty of money to be able to get the job done. But it's pretty much unheard of because FHA appraisals, I don't know if you guys realize this, but it follows the property for 6 months. So that first $300,000 FHA appraisal would have followed that property for 6 months. Now, the list agent didn't care, but she should have, because if she had gotten another FHA offer in, she would have never been able to do that. And I think that goes for VA too. Does it, Ryan? I can't remember if it does. But if it's an FHA appraisal, does that also go for VA?
Yes. Usually it does. Yes.
Okay. So yeah. So that was the first one, and it was a hard fight, but it when you realize what you have, you definitely have to make sure that they're going to do their job correctly. And that was all we wanted to do, was just make sure they were going to do their job correctly. Now we did, when you're writing up a rebuttal, you can see, we wrote up the rebuttal this way, like we took, this is what the appraiser had said. This is our response. This is what the appraiser said. This is our response. So make sure that you write up your rebuttal that way so that you're actually addressing each issue of what the appraiser did that you felt was incorrect. And I don't want to talk bad about appraisers because most of them do a really good job. And I think that she really felt like she was doing a good job. But the problem is when the mistake was realized that she was using the smaller units, she could not turn around and then say, you know what, I was using smaller units. You're right. I need to fix this. She just stuck to her guns. So that's why we had to get the VP involved. And I don't even know what happened behind the scenes, but I imagine that if I was that VP, I don't know if I would utilize that person again. Okay, so now we're going to switch to Abbotsbury. And Abbotsbury is a single family home over off of Reims Road, really close to Disney, and a gated community. And the gated community, that gated community happens to be just a little bit lower for their appraisals than Lakes of Windermere, which is it's like a 10-minute drive, but if you're looking at it, literally that community backs up to this community, and they were all built by Pulte, and it's the exact same models. So whenever I'm doing an appraisal in that gated community of Lakes of Windermere Peachtree, I make sure that I pull my comps from that other community that was, you know, it's within the same mile of this. So, you know, and you can do that if you have super like houses and you have a community that's just a little bit depressed for whatever reason. If that builder built in the same area, you can use comps from another area. I had my very first appraisal that I did in this community, the house that I listed, the guy was an appraiser. And he's like, you're never going to get that price for my house. And it was 7,000 more than what he thought we should be able to get. And I got it. And so he was super impressed. He's like, that's never going to work. And it was like, it worked because I met the appraiser. I explained why I had put those comps in there, and that worked out good. But so for Abbotsbury, I actually had the listing and I had the buyer. So this is a whole different scenario. And I did everything right. I mean, I met the appraiser. He discounted the fact that the house had solar, and the solar panels were owned. They were not leased. And he gave us zero value for the solar panels. He also gave us no value for the fact that the house sat on conservation. And he appraised it very low. And I think part of that was because he knew that I had the buyer and the seller. And I think he wanted to make sure that I wasn't, I guess, hoodwinking the buyer. But the buyer, I mean, he, you know, going into it, he was like, I'll pay, you know, 5,000, 10,000 over what the list price is, or what the appraisal is, because he knew there was nothing else out there for him in that price range. I mean, it just, you know, it was the beginning of all this craziness, like at the end of last year. And you guys, I mean, that was the start of what is now become a crazy market that I've never seen. But anyway, so the first appraisal, the original appraisal came in at 310, and I'm like, what the heck? Why is this 310? And I started looking through it, and I realized he didn't give them any value for the fact that they backed to the conservation. He didn't give any value to the fact that they had owned solar panels. And for solar panels, just so you guys know, they should give between 4 to 6% of what the sales price is for value for owned solar panels. And it just depends on how big the house is. Like a bigger house is going to give you more value. Does that make sense? So, but appraisal houses will literally tell the appraiser if they give value to solar panels, they'll kick it back, and they will not allow it. And I think part of that is because a lot of the solar panels were leased, and the buyer is expected to take over the lease. But at the time, I did not know that. I mean, I included all the feature stuff and the updates. I also included what the solar panels were, but I did not include the invoice showing that they had bought them as opposed to leasing them. And so that was part of what we had to put with the second appraisal. Anyways, and it was the same situation. The appraiser absolutely refused to give us value for those solar panels. And as a matter of fact, the appraiser said, I don't know if I pulled that here. No value for the solar panels was given because it was not normal for the neighborhood. And so I went back out and I counted how many houses had solar panels in that neighborhood, and 15 of them had solar panels. And the neighborhood's only probably like maybe 100 and maybe 50 houses, maybe not even that many. So like 10% of the people had solar panels. To me, that's sort of normal for the neighborhood. And especially for Florida. I mean, all over Florida, for an appraiser to actually say that having solar panels is not normal is a little bit ridiculous, if you ask me. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Lazy.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyways, long story short, we got a new appraisal, and that appraiser gave us, we had it listed for 340. He gave us the value of 335, and my client gave the sellers a check for $5,000. So in the long run, it was worth it. It was pretty scary because I had both the buyer and the seller, and you don't want to be in that situation. I really hate doing both buyers and sellers. In this market, it's almost worth it to you to do that because if you have a house and you have a buyer and you can get them to come to a meeting of the minds, you're much better off, because it's really hard to find houses for your buyers right now. I mean, I don't know if you guys are dealing with that, but that's been the case for me. I've written, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 contracts this year and gotten maybe a fifth of them accepted. So anyways, does anybody have any questions?
Hey, Teresa, this is Ida. I do need clarification. You indicated that you were expecting the appraiser to give back anywhere from 4 to 5% of the listing price. Is this because the seller owned the solar panel? Because I am confused, because I have heard different in regard to solar panels. Can you clarify that, please?
I have a really good friend that is an appraiser, and years ago well, not years ago, like a couple of years ago, we did a house that actually had solar panels on it, and so I called her to ask her how much more appraiser gives for the solar panels. And that's what she told me, 4 to 6%. And she says 4% on smaller homes, 6% on larger homes, because of course the solar panels, you're going to have a whole lot more for a larger home as opposed to a smaller home. So that is what the appraiser usually should give. Now, all appraisals are different. And if you can find a home that has solar panels that it had more value anywhere in that county, a similar home, then and you could show the difference, that always helps as well. But yeah, I mean, that's what they should give, is between 4 to 6%.
Again, that's subjective on the appraiser, what, feel about it.
And
it's
really,
different set of eyes looking at appraising a house.
Right. So every single appraiser is different. So it is not an exact science. It's supposed to be, but there is appraisers have a lot of leeway in the way they do things. And that's why I meet the appraisers. So yes, Ryan.
That's exactly what I was going to say, guys. That's why it's so important to meet these appraisers. They're humans. We just talked about this other appraiser. You guys don't act like you've never done this. When it's easy to have an easy out, like to say, oh, I'm not even going to consider them because it's not normal in this neighborhood. You're going to make a little bit different. I teach my kid when he's in 9th grade and going into 10th grade now, hopefully. But I teach him to go to your teachers, talk to them, ask them how you can make up for something. If you get a bad grade somehow, ask how you can make up for just the effort. Shows they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt over the kids who don't care. they've got plenty of kids who don't care, and they need to give A's, B's, C's, and D's. So they're going to save the A's for the kids who care, and of course the smarter kids who do their work and stuff too. But but you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. And these appraisers, they do have that. And we've had appraisers come in and teach us before. And one of the things they say is, if it gets close, I'll stretch it. If it's not close, I can't stretch it. But if it gets within a little bit, I'll make it work. You guys, just as a teacher despises a lazy student, appraisers despise lazy realtors. And you guys have been on those Facebook group pages and stuff where there's appraisers and realtors and everything else. And they see all the stuff. They see all the realtors complaining about other lazy realtors and how they ruin deals. Guys, if you don't go to the appraisal, you don't meet the appraiser, you don't try to contest an appraisal with reasonable stuff here, like what Teresa's done. Teresa went back out and looked at, who wants to argue with somebody who's going to go out and count solar panels, right? They don't want to. Guys, they're only human. They're going to make corrections. They're going to do things. And next time they get a Teresa deal, they see her name on a deal, they know that she's going to call them on all her stuff, and they're going to do it right the first time. Right. All right. So this, people, like she said, they're only human. She goes out and compliments their shoes and whatever. But if you go out and do whatever it is that you need to do to gain favor with them, and what they want to see is that you're going to work hard and that you care. And then they don't want to argue. Someone who comes up with an appraisal package like what Teresa does is the person who's going to contest a bad appraisal. And so they are going to do their very best for you to make this work, because they don't want to ever hear about it again.
I agree with Ryan. And also what Teresa is doing, breaking the ice, so they know that she's not, or we are the enemy. We are here to work together. Sure.
But how many of you guys have let a bad appraisal kill a deal, and you never went to the appraisal, you never tried to talk to the appraiser, you never did anything? I mean, that happens with you guys all the time. So not each one of you, I'm not pointing fingers, but it happens with us, right? I mean, I hear you guys call me and you tell me about the appraisal that didn't come through, and you don't know what to do, and you didn't go out and meet the appraiser. I'll ask you who the appraiser was, you don't know. So guys, you've got to give the effort. If they see the effort, they'll help you. I think that is great. And Teresa, the point by point that you did, breaking down the appraisals, you have copies of that you can maybe take out personal, anything that you can redact for us, and they can kind of use as a template.
Yeah, I can try to figure out how to do that. I can make Mikey do it.
Yeah, he can do it. I know he can do it.
Hey, you need to do this for Ryan. Hey, so one of the things is, and I would have gone to the first appraisal for Sola Vita but she planned it at a time when I was out of town. So, because I already knew that we might have a problem, and I already knew that she was not going to go out and meet them. And, she gave me the same excuse that a lot of agents do. Well, appraisers tell you that you're not supposed to meet them. Our broker does not want us to meet appraisers. What? Why? It doesn't make any sense. So it's really easy to be an extraordinary agent in Florida, because there's a lot of people that will do the bare minimum to get the job done and never anymore. And so you don't want to be known as that type of agent. I can't tell you how many times I have gotten deals simply because the agent on the other side goes, oh, hey, it's Teresa. And they know I'm going to do my work. They know I'm going to, I'm not going to give them a hard time. I'm going to, work like our thing says, we work for the good of the deal. You work for the good of the deal with limited confidentiality, and you want to make sure that everybody is treated fairly. And so then that's what I do. It's not, I'm not going to be the agent that's going to argue with you on the other side over something stupid. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
there are times where I will pay for things just to make an agent happy.
You know what makes you guys feel better? And I think about this every time I see one of those Facebook groups where people complain about all the terrible agents out there. The more terrible agents, the better for you guys. The easier it is to stand out. Let them be average. Let them be below average. You guys stand out. Every time I see that, I say, good, my people will stand out.
Right.
So every time if the world was everybody was as good as you are, then how would you stand out, right? Just
Right.
keep getting better, and be glad that there's bad agents out there. You know,
Exactly.
somebody has to fail. Somebody has to fit that 90% of people who fail. So
Right.
they're just filling themselves in there.
Well, something that Ron the realtor said to me, you guys all know Ron the realtor, right? So when we were doing a deal, he brought a agent, or brought a client to the other side of a listing that I had. And he said to me, he says, Teresa, I do my own work. He said, I will never be the agent that expects you to do anything for me. I will do my own work. And if you need me to, I'll do your work too. And so, and that really like set with me. And so I tell that to agents, I do my own work. I've been doing this a long time. And so, and if you ever need me to do anything for you, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
Teresa, are you doing the appraisals for your buyers, if only your listings?
So it depends. And that's what I was going to say earlier. If I think that we might have a problem on the buy side, and I know that agent is not going to meet them, I will go meet them. I was going to meet the person at Solavita, but I was out of town, and she scheduled it at a bad time. And the worst thing is when I did finally meet the second appraiser, I didn't get a good time. So I sat there for 4 hours. Jenny and I sat over there and just worked for 4 hours. We got a lot of work done, and waited for the appraiser to get there. So because I didn't want to miss them. But yeah, I'll meet it for either side. Doesn't matter. You work for your client. That's all you do. And we make really good money for what we do. So, work. Drive a little more. I don't get the agents that are like, oh, I have a listing, but my house shows better if you turn on the lights, so you might want to get there a little early. Why aren't you driving out there and turning on your own lights? Okay, I'm done my pet peeve. But yeah, just be a great agent, be better than the best. You guys
have heard me talk about this before. You guys get our average commission is $7,500, something like that. People work months for $7,500. You guys understand that regular people work months for $7,500. How much work do you put in for $7,500? I know you spend a little money and you spend time and you have deals that fall through and you make nothing on it if you spend, but how much work are you actually putting in for that $7,500? Bust your butt and make sure you get it, because that's how you lose it, is to not care about the appraisal, not follow up on the inspection, all the kind of stuff that you can do. So work. And one of the you know what, I'm gonna let you guys ask Teresa more questions about that, and then I'll get into something else. Any other questions for Teresa?
Yeah, Ryan, our big joke is my kids, they'll be like, what are you making this month, Mom? And I'll be like, what you make in a year?
Nice.
So, and that kills them. They're working, my one son, he works like 50, 60 hours a week. And
right. So I'll get into this right now then, because this is what I want to talk to you about. Why you guys got in the business. And we always talk about, yes, to help people find homes. And of course we know that they'll find another realtor. They don't need you for that. We got in this business because no one could tell us how much money we can make. We got in this business to set our own hours. Yes, we have to work hard, but we can work around stuff, and you have to be somewhere Tuesday at 2:00, you can be there. And whatever it is that you need to do, you can go out of town and do stuff. Guys, I hear so many of you talk about, I'm just not a people person, or I'm just not good with paperwork. And you tell me who you are all the time. That's just not me. I want you to think about, it's not you today. It's not who you were. Who you are today and going forward is whoever you decide you are. You have got to be a people person. You have got to be able to talk to people. You have got to be a hard worker. A lot of you got in this business, not you guys necessarily, a lot of people got in this business because they weren't hard workers at they weren't hard workers at regular jobs. They didn't like all that work, right? And they thought, oh, I could make $7,500 4 times a year and do just do the same financially, right? That's what they thought. So that's who you were. You were lazy. You were bad at talking to people. You were scared to talk to people. You were bad at paperwork. That's not who you are. That's who you were. Okay. There are people, when people describe themselves, for example, if I describe myself, I would say, do you like opera? I would say no, even though I've been to 3 operas and I enjoyed them all. I can only name 2 of them actually, but I've been to 3 of them and I've enjoyed them all. But I'm not going to say I like opera, because then you're going to ask me real opera questions and I'm going to look like an idiot. So I do like opera, but I don't go to opera. It's just not who I've been. Right. But if I wanted to start going to operas, I would, and I would enjoy them because I like operas. Musicals, not so much. I fell asleep in the Nutcracker and stuff. So not so much just regular music, but opera, it's not who I was, it's who I can be and who I'm going to be. So I see some of you guys limit yourselves about why you struggle with business and why you struggle with these things. And I just don't have time. No, you have to make time. Nobody has time. Who has time for anything? You guys will say, I don't work out because I can't find the time. I work out for 15 minutes. I do a circuit training thing. You guys can find the time to do that. It's not who you were, it's who you can be and who you will be that matters. Don't say things, that's just how I am. It's not how you are. So I just have a pet peeve about that. I've heard a lot of that lately, and that's not who you guys are. You guys can talk to me. You guys can talk to other people you don't know about things that you're interested in. You guys don't like to talk about sales, or you guys don't like to do paperwork. You can do paperwork. You don't, it's not rocket science. You guys can do your paperwork. It's that you don't like to do it, or it hasn't been what you have been, but it's what you need to be, guys, to be successful in this business. And you need to follow this stuff. A lot of you guys see this, what Teresa does for these things, and you think, gosh, that seems like a lot of work. Well, guess what? That's why Teresa does 8 figures a year. Okay. That's why, because she puts in the work. You guys have got to do the same. That's just not me. I'm just not that hard of a worker. No, you weren't. But if you want to be successful in this business, it's who you will be from this point on. Okay? You decide who you are, and you guys are all capable. You decide who you are. There are some very successful realtors. Teresa's involved in the mastermind thing, and that's where Ron does his. Guys, Ron wears a suit 24 hours a day, probably. Never seen him sleep, but probably in a suit, and he does 60 million a year.
I've never seen him sweat. I don't know how he does it.
Oh, he's sweating in there. He's sweating in there. Yeah.
Like, you never see sweat on him.
Okay.
One of the things that so just so you guys understand my background, I got a GED. I finished 10th grade in school and I got a GED. And I was a teenage mom, and I was very timid, and not very assertive. I would apologize for everything. I homeschooled my kids, and for the first 2 years, I felt guilty because they weren't getting on a bus. But they were being homeschooled. So, but that was just my thing. I will take on clients' problems. Like, it is not your fault if a house does not appraise, unless you don't do anything about it. Then it could be your fault. But for the most part, we apologize for things that are never anything we should apologize for. There are things you can control, and if you can control them and you can do something and you don't, then shame on you. But if you can't, if it's out of your hands, don't let it get to you. Don't let it, because I will let things sit and simmer, and I will feel super guilty about things that should never, ever be in my wheelhouse of guilt, So yeah, just, when you're, as you come up in this business, you get a thicker skin, you have to, but find somebody that you aspire to be like, somebody that you want to be like, and hook your wagon to them. Like, I did that, and I still do that. I hook my wagon to stars that I think, are pretty amazing. Like, I love Renee Funk. She has so many little nuggets, treasure nuggets, and she tries to recruit me. So she calls me all the time, and I will just sit and listen at her feet because she is an incredible, godly woman realtor that is on fire, you know? So it's like, I will learn from her because I think she's really amazing. So, you know, find somebody that you think is amazing and just hook your wagon to them. You know, can I go out? Can I watch you do things? And that's what I did when I was first in this business. I went to every training. I don't care if I had to pay for it or not, whatever it was. I would have been at every single one of these trainings every week, because that's where you're going to learn, you know. And Aura does a ton of trainings for free. Go, you know, if you're not good with paperwork, go to an Aura training, learn, you know, figure it out. None of us were good with the paperwork when we first started because we didn't know how to do it. You know, just go find a class, figure it out. It's so much easier now than it was when I first started in this business, because you have YouTube. We didn't have YouTube, did we, Tammy?
No.
We didn't
And we didn't have dot loop and electronic signing. You had to write it everybody's initials.
We didn't have GPS. We had the big ADC maps. I mean, that's what you did. You know, you mapped out your stuff. You went into MapQuest and spent an hour mapping out what routes you were going to go. But anyways, it's so much easier nowadays for information, to get information. So anyways, I'm sorry, Ryan, I sort of hijacked what you were saying, but it's the truth.
No, you're doing great. That's perfect. So guys, I'm just sharing with you guys a, oh no, I shared the wrong thing. I actually clicked one too many times there. Sorry. I'm sharing with you guys follow up to the goal setting that we did. And I'm sharing with you guys a video for you to watch at your convenience. It's a Zig Ziglar, and it's goal setting, and it's a follow up to what some of the stuff I stole from him. One of my favorite, well, I got some of my favorite stuff in there, and so you guys take a look at that if you get a chance. The first one I did was Tony Robbins, I think, but that was an accident, but you can watch that too. But Zig Ziglar is the one I wanted to share with you. So it's in the chat if you want. It's the last one in there at 11:18 a.m. Yeah, so that's fantastic. I absolutely, you guys use some mentors in here, guys. There's lots of, if you guys want to contact me, I can hook you up. Teresa has volunteered before. Tammy has mentored people. I know some of you other guys will as well. And I appreciate that. And some of you guys, you know, learn from people who are out there doing it and doing well. You are who you surround yourself with.
I have a story.
Oh, Tammy has a story. Story time.
Story.
Gather around, kids.
Story time. So I had this counseling session for about 3 sessions with this woman, and she was telling me how she procrastinates and avoids things. And of course, I don't do that, but she was telling me a story about, no, I'm just teasing. Anyway, that she had this house, her house was either settling, or the wood beams at the top were separating. And she goes, I've been ignoring it, and everybody's been telling me, oh, it's nothing. And she said, and I just cannot ignore that anymore. I've got to take care of it. So, and she goes, I just don't really even know where to start. And so as we kept talking about other things, and then I was like, oh wait, maybe you should call your homeowner's insurance first. And so we were kind of like figuring the situation out. I said, oh, you know what? My daughter's soon-to-be ex-father-in-law owns a engineering company, blah, 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 blah. I can get in touch with him and see, you know, maybe just get a structural engineer out there, blah, blah, blah. And so she told me that the pipes under her house, the city had like a water leak and had like washed out all this sand from around these pipes. It sounded like kind of a mess. And so it sounds like a sinkhole kind of situation or some type of settlement. So anyway, we finished up, and I said, well, let me text Larry. And so I texted her back a few days later, and I said, Larry they don't do structural engineering. They do roads and but you know, he's going to get me a referral for you. And so then a couple of days more went by, and then Larry texted me and he's like, hey, our structural engineer will take a look for her, blah, blah, blah. And I emailed or texted her. She called me, she goes, that is so sweet of you. Because I gave her the homeowner's insurance idea, and I gave her, I was getting her in touch with an engineer. She calls me today. She goes, Tammy, I talked to Larry. He's such a nice man. She goes, and I want you to know, if anybody needs a house, I am definitely referring them to you, because you definitely know what you're talking about. And and I was just really helping her. I really had no idea I would get any, who knows if she'll send me a referral, but just being, she goes, you're so knowledgeable and you know what you're talking about. You're just not selling a 4-bedroom house, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I just thought I would share that.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. And so just by being helpful, you're going to get 5-star reviews and referrals and stuff like that. That's going above and beyond. And Tammy, a self-admitted procrastinator, handled something right away, and it paid off for her. But that's who Tammy was, a procrastinator. She decided that she wasn't anymore. And guys, whether you were someone who's a procrastinator, or someone who was a little bit lazy, or someone who didn't like to go to the gym, or didn't like to go to church, or didn't like to go walk in nature, whatever it is that was you, is no longer the minute you decide it's not. And the minute you decide that you want to be successful, the person who was a struggling realtor was you. It's not anymore. The person who was stuck at 5 million when they wanted to get to 12 million, or the person stuck at 10 when they wanted to get to 20, or 30 when they wanted to get to 60, that was you. It's not anymore, because you decide that. You decide. Okay? You change things today, and you decide that that's what you are going forward. Nobody tells you that. I don't want to hear, this is how I am. It's not how you are. Not if you want to be successful. Okay? If you're not good at talking to people, then you need to partner with somebody who is. But really, I've always told people that, use your strengths and stuff. But for those of you, if you're not married to that person, you need to do it for yourself. You need to learn how to talk to people. You need to learn how to do your paperwork. You need to learn. Okay? Yeah, it's not even a learn. It's a mindset. You were a procrastinator. We all have been, right? But not anymore starting today. Tammy decided, let me call Larry right now and handle that for you. And she got kudos for job well done. And really, how much effort was that, Tammy? Not much.
Yeah.
Not much. Just a mindset. Just a mindset. That's it.
And that's important. You can say I can't do something, or you can say I can do something. I mean, that's like the old adage. The 2 men were sent to Africa to sell shoes, and the one guy, he calls his boss the next night and he goes, oh my gosh, nobody owns shoes. He's like, I have a whole market here because nobody owns shoes. And then the next guy calls his boss and he goes, nobody owns shoes. How am I ever going to sell shoes to somebody that doesn't own shoes? So it's a mindset. What are you thinking? You can overcome anything.
Well, yeah, and guys, and we always talk about this stuff, and you guys we give ideas, and we have people come in and give you ideas, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do a series on this and a series on that, and you guys get these ideas, and the same way that you go to church and you decide you're going to change your life and stuff, guys, if you don't actually do it, it doesn't matter. There's I don't know if you guys are familiar with the love languages and all that stuff, and nobody really likes the words of affirmation as much as they like the acts of service, right? Nobody likes words as much as they like people who actually do things. It's one thing if you tell your partner, yeah, I was thinking about you today when I was at the store. And it's another thing if you get them something, if you show up with something in your hand. I thought about buying you flowers today, honey. So Tammy thought about calling somebody to help out with the structural engineering. She thought about it, but she didn't do it, right? So it's and she says, Tammy, how'd that go? Well, I could have done it. I just didn't. It's you get the mindset, but you have to actually do it. And that's a whole mindset. That's the non-procrastination. And procrastination is what's killing realtors right and left. Fear, procrastination. There's lots of things like this, guys. But and one of the things that Zig Ziglar talks about, and guys, please watch that if you can. One of the things he talks about is fear. That's one of the reasons people don't do it, right? False evidence that appears real, FEAR, fear. He's going to talk about that. And for those of you who are not English first, he is from Mississippi and he talks a little funny, so you might have a hard time with that, but at least he speaks very slowly. So you can keep up. I've had Spanish speakers who do okay with that. So he's a little hard to understand, but he speaks slowly. So check that out if you would. That's actually a video, or you can just listen to it in the car. All right, guys. Any other questions or comments?
I do. Carol asked what addendum I use for furniture, and I just told her I just use the blank addendum. So, and I don't number my addendums for that purpose, because if you start numbering your addendums, the next thing you know, the bank is going to be like, oh, well, where's addendum 1?
Well, I'll put an A. I'll do like an A for those addendums, and then 1, 2, 3 for ones you want the bank to have, and the ones you don't want the bank to know about, I stick a letter on them.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But I just don't number them unless they ask me to. Every once in a great while, probably out one deal every year, the bank will be like, why aren't these letters you're numbered? You need to number them. But yeah, so I just do a blank addendum, and I just say all the furniture and decorating accessories, etc., stay with the house. You know, or if you're
At no additional value.
yeah, at no additional value. Yeah. And then all other terms remain the same. Whenever you do an addendum, you always put all other terms remain the same. So anyways.
All right.
I have
Fantastic.
well, actually, I would like to have an opinion.
Who said that?
Me.
Okay.
Go ahead, Romina.
Hi. Well, Teresa, you were saying that as a buyer, you can basically ask or find out who the appraiser will be. But I wanted to share this case to see if you got, or you can give me a feedback. I'm going through a transaction where the appraisal was done the first time, maybe 2 weeks ago, and the house was listed for 540,000. The appraisal came out 410. So it was the craziest thing I ever saw, actually.
So are you the lister?
No, on the buyer's side, on the buyer.
Okay, well, then you should have gotten a copy of the appraisal.
So-
You should have gotten a copy of the appraisal as the buyer's agent.
I got it.
Okay, so did you look at it? I mean, was it a good appraisal? Because if it was a good appraisal, the house was just listed way overpriced.
Well, that's the thing. So we saw the whole report, and the appraiser, he was missing a few things here and there, you know, things that could probably give more value to the house. But before I submitted an offer, we check, you know, comparison houses, CMA, you know, those things, to see if the house was okay, to know how much we could offer, blah, blah, blah. So when we did it, it was like 510, 520. That was the price that I came out before I offered.
So was it conventional or
Convention? Yeah.
Okay, so I would rebut it. I would go to your
So this is what we did. Sorry, so I don't want to interrupt you, but I just wanted to let you know what's going on now. So
okay.
We asked the lender to send another appraiser, and they refused because they said, no, you have to send me this, and that. So we ended up changing the lender.
Okay.
So we're working with another lender. We had time, we're still working on that deal. So the appraisal was done yesterday.
Okay.
But this is well, first of all, I could never get in touch with the person who was doing the appraisal. We knew that the appraisal appointment was yesterday. Obviously, I'm not the listing agent. I didn't know until now that I can probably get in touch with them. I wasn't sure if for those things that we all hear today. So I wasn't sure what to do, and I was super worried because obviously the closing is supposed to be on Monday, which is not going to be on Monday anymore. But my client put $20,000 as an escrow money. So I'm super worried. What if the appraisal on the second one from the new lender, let's say, is not coming as high as we all expecting at this point?
Did you, what was I gonna say? Oh, you do have a clause for appraisal if you're financing, like if it doesn't appraise, then, and the seller is not willing to come down on the price, your buyer is not obligated unless somewhere in the contract you obligated him.
It depends on what the letter says. Like if the letter states all the terms, saying that, they're gonna buy this house, they're gonna buy this house for $540,000, they're putting 20% down, so the lender is lending them this much at this interest rate. So if any of those terms change, then the financing changes, and that's part of the financing contingency unless you removed it.
And then is the house over, in this market, the houses are overpriced. They're probably not going to appraise. And so that's either an issue that needs to be addressed up front, or, if it's not really going to appraise, then you need to either be willing to pay over appraised value or discuss with the listing agent, are they willing to come down to the appraised, the appraised value? Because in this market, half these things aren't probably going to appraise at the prices that they're going for.
So,
well, yeah.
I was going to say a couple of things. One, what we've started doing is we've started saying how much we'll pay over appraised value. So I tell my clients, I'm like, okay, if you're, are you willing to pay 10,000 over appraised value? And we put that in.
Right.
So that's one thing. But for your case, in this market, a lot of appraisers are still using 6 months for comps. You want to give them 3 months or less because the prices have changed so much. I can't imagine how they came up with 410 if you actually came up with 510. And that could have been an error, like in their numbers. I mean, I've had that happen before. So you might want to go back, look at the appraisal and make sure that the numbers are correct, because you've got to look at what each comparison is.
I saw all the comparisons, and like I said, he was missing a few things here and there. Well, my concern, let's put it this way, at this point, we are supposed to receive the appraisal today, the report. On the contract, it says, well, it's actually, how can I say this? My buyer is okay paying 30,000 above appraisal. That's what they agree. It's not on the contract. We never put it on the contract, but they told me, Romina, it's okay. Let's say if the appraisal comes back X amount, we put 30,000 above, that would be the max. But of course, after the first appraisal coming at 410, obviously the house, the owners bought the house for 400,000 on 2017. So how come in all these years is only appraised 10,000? So number one, that's like kind of like, it makes no sense.
Right.
But would they, if I extend the contract, that would be my question. If I extend the contract, and let's say, because obviously they didn't sign the CD yet, so we have no time to close on Monday, we have to probably extend it. If I extend it and after extended, if they decided not to purchase because of the appraisal came out still too low, would they be risking their money?
You need to extend the financing period too.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Not for appraisal, she doesn't. And and they're not deciding. If appraisal doesn't come back, don't use the words deciding not to go forward. They can't go forward. Okay, if it doesn't meet their terms of their loan approval, then they can't go forward without that. Okay, that's the terms we used. They can't go forward because they were supposed to. The reason that Teresa was saying it violates their, it doesn't fit into their loan approval, is because they were buying for 540. It doesn't matter what they told you that they'll pay 30 over whatever, but whatever the terms say on their loan approval is what they do. So if they're buying for 540 and putting 20% down, which is $108,000, right? So they were putting that money down. Now there's $108,000, but now they have to come up with $150,000. That's not something that they don't decide whether or not to do that. If they want to get out of the deal, they can't do it. It doesn't fit in their budget. It doesn't matter. This line 119 through 122, I put it in the chat.
Yes, I heard that.
It says appraisal of the property, reasons, the ways they can get out of it is appraisal of the property obtained by buyer's lenders insufficient to meet the terms of the loan approval. So that is the buyer shall be refunded the deposit, thereby releasing buyer and seller from all further obligations under this contract. So it doesn't matter when. That's why if you're on the listing side, you demand that the buyer gets their appraisal within the first 21 days. Is what I would do. That's what I've taught you guys since this new language came out in 2017. I've taught you guys when they got rid of loan commitment and the 7 days before closing and the 45 days, and they went to a 30-day loan approval. I told you guys get bigger deposits and make people get their appraisals or make the appraisal happen within the first 21 days, which is reasonable. And it keeps you from going over this 30, getting into 40 days and 50 days and all that. Because if you had to do it right now with that 410 appraisal, would you have backed out? Yes, right?
Yes.
They're not coming up with 220 grand or something. So I think that from what you said, the little pluses and minuses they're going to get from some of the features that you mentioned that they missed, that's not going to make up the $100,000 difference. What happened is they've got some old comps or some bad comps that they're basing these things on. I mean, if you were within 10 grand, then yeah, let's talk about features. But if you're 100 grand off, that's bad comps. There's no 100 grand thing unless it's built on a oil field. There's nothing that's going to help it that much. So they're using bad comps. There's no way they're $100,000 off.
Especially in that price range. I mean, if you're talking $1 million, $100,000 isn't so much, but at that price range, I mean, that's a fifth of what the houses were, I mean, that's a lot. Fernando asked, is there a difference between appraisals ordered in an FHA loan instead of a conventional? And does the appraisal for FHNA tend to be lower than conventional? There is a difference. The appraiser for FHA and VA have to have a separate certification, and they are looking for certain things like, is there trip hazards? Is there
Safety hazards
on the roof? I mean, things like that. And yes, sometimes they will come in a little bit lower than a conventional because there's things that they have to look at. But for the most part, as long as you look at it and you can get it to appraise, I don't worry about it. And I encourage my sellers agents not to worry about it as well.
Also with an FHA or VIA, those are government backed and they want the house to be completely livable. So you can't negotiate, hey, look, I know there's a bunch of things wrong with the house, but we'll just give you $5 grand at closing. You've got to go and fix them before closing. And an FHA appraisal sticks for 6 months. So if Teresa brings me a client to my listing and it doesn't appraise and so the buyer walks, and then Pat brings me someone the next week with another FHA deal, I can't get a new appraisal. I'm stuck with that appraisal for any FHA deal for 6 months.
Right.
So she needs to still extend her financing as well, though, right? If she's going to extend her closing date, even though still that appraisal situation is covered in the contract, you'd still want to extend your financing.
I recommend that she does, but she doesn't have to.
Yeah.
She's going to be covered.
Ryan, but that 6 months is just for FHA loans. It doesn't affect the if conventional. Okay, it's just okay. I got it. Okay,
that's why if Pat brings me another FHA deal, I'm stuck with that appraisal from Teresa's deal.
Okay.
But not if, no, I would go in MLS. If I didn't like that price, I would go in MLS and get rid of FHA people.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
just
of
bring me
course,
conventional.
Yeah,
Well,
okay, okay.
And the sad thing is that in this market, it's very hard to even get an FHA appraiser accepted. Or an FHA, a client accepted. I couldn't believe that we actually got that deal because we just closed that. So it was, I felt like it was an act of God, but you know, that a lot of prayer because I prayed very hard that we would get it accepted. But anyways, yeah, Romina, I really think that I don't think you probably need to worry if you found comps that worked, then, you know, the appraiser should be able to find them as well.
Okay, hopefully.
Yeah, I don't worry about things until I have to worry about them because you can worry yourself to death, seriously.
And that's what's going on because, you know, it's, you know, they
Stress
worry.
So
Yeah.
bad. So anyways, that's a whole nother class.
Yeah, but thank you for your input.
You're welcome.
Jika, FHA appraisal stays for 6 months. I just checked up to make sure it's 6 months.
Yeah, it's definitely 6 months.
They can be extended in certain cases, it says. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Any other questions, comments?
It's 90 days, Ryan. Refresh.
90 days.
90
No.
days, you flip, I think is what he probably meant. 90 days, if you buy a house and flip it, you have to wait 90 days.
Okay, yeah, we're just talking about appraisal, so how long the
Yes,
appraisal sticks.
So
Yeah.
I think that's what he's probably talking 90 days, not a
Okay.
FHA appraisal.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
You would not buy a house FHA if you're going to flip it. Because when you buy an FHA house, that says you're going to live in it. So if you're
Not an FHA, not an FHA buyer, but if anybody buys, their flipper, they're gonna get cash. They're gonna pay cash. It's not an FHA loan. It's gonna be like conventional cash, but what they do, they flip the house and then they have to wait 90 days because if an FHA buyer buys it, they have to wait 90 days, I think, or 91 days before they can sell it to an FHA
Okay.
buyer.
Okay.
I
They
think
bought
that's
it
where the
cash and
90
they're
days.
selling it FHA.
Has to be sold.
Right, it's a fixer upper. Yeah.
Okay. So they're selling it FHA, he's talking about. Okay.
If they get an FHA buyer, it has to be 91 days. They have to wait. I think that's what that
Yeah.
90 days.
Got it. Got it.
I think.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Next week, Jason will be on. We're going to talk about our training series with Tom Ferry and some of his people. And that'll be an additional training for you guys on Tuesday mornings as you voted for. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. You guys need anything in the meantime, let us know. Another outstanding month you guys had. I don't know if it's record setting yet or not, but it's going to be close. We set a record for most transactions started on paperless pipeline. I can tell you that because some of you guys know you ran into a wall yesterday. We couldn't put any more in, and we had to up our total transactions with paperless pipeline. So that cost us some money. So you guys go out there and make us some money so we can pay for that. And so you can pay your own bills. And remember, guys, you are who you decide you are. And you are the kind of person that goes to appraisals with a packet and you follow up and you get this preferential treatment because you're an FRI agent and because you're hardworking. All right. I'll see you guys next week. Keep up the good work. We don't procrastinate. We kick butt. Go get them. Oh, Teresa, you're going to be, will you make me the host, please?
Yeah.
Why is it not giving me more? I'm trying to make you the host and it just wants me to rename it.
Okay. Well, when you go, you can get out of here. And when you do, just say click end meeting for all.
There you go. You're
All right. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.